Welcome to the Careers in Agile panel discussion. So we're trying a bit of an experiment here. Usually with our Princeton Agility group, we've done lean coffees and we've done lightning talks. It's the first time we're doing a panel discussion. So welcome to our experiment. I'm going to move on to the next slide, Tom. So there's the written notice. This session will be recorded and made available publicly. If you object to that, please disconnect now. If you don't wish to be seen, please turn off your video. So what is Princeton Agility? We're a group of people who are passionate about building community support, capability, and agile mindsets in our areas. So we create opportunities for connection, sharing knowledge, and leadership so we and the people we work with better learn and adapt, honor our customers and the people doing the work, professionals, right? Deliver value and enjoy what we do. We actually currently are called, theoretically, Princeton Lean Coffee and Meetup. We are transitioning to Princeton Agility, and so soon our link is going to change. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Good, Tom. This session is actually also part of Agile 20 Reflect Festival. It says over 600 events there, but I happen to know that we're actually over 800 now, and maybe close to 1,000. Wow. So we actually are part of the Agile 20 Reflect. It's the largest virtual Agile conference ever. Then there are things that are occurring all over the world. This is associated with the 20th anniversary of the Agile Manifesto. So please check them out at the event's website. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. Covers a diverse range of topics and subjects. Okay, Tom? Yes, okay. So the Agile 20 Reflect Festival is run by volunteers. It is not commercial. So if you go back to the last slide there, Tom. Yeah. Yep. What we want to do is ask if you are willing to go and make a donation. No contribution is too small. We want to make you aware that the Reflect Festival also does have a code of conduct. We want to try to be open and safe and inclusive. If for some, we hope that's in the case here. And if you feel this is not happening, please let me know. If we don't address your concerns, please reach out to the festival organizers at the event's conduct as well. And if you give me 1 second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put information into the chat regarding Agile Reflects 20 in case you want to go out and link and learn more. Do that now. Okay, Tom? Yep. Yep. So a little bit more about Princeton Agility. We typically have an event the last Wednesday of each month. We've got a join link there that I'm shortly going to copy and paste into the chat as well. We are going to be changing our name in March officially, which means I believe that link is going to change based upon the link formation. So just understand if you're going to join soon. Our March 31st meeting, which is the last Wednesday of the month for March, is going to be lightning talks. So reach out to me mid-March via Slack if you're interested in giving a talk, or some other means, LinkedIn or whatever would work as well. We're going to do 10 minutes for each talk and Q&A. Either we'll be part of it or we'll follow. And see the Princeton Agility Meetup site to RSVP. And there'll be links available to Slack to RSVP and also to RSVP in the Zoom chat window. I'm going to copy and paste those in now. Give me a second. The Slack link does expire in like 2 weeks. I do that intentionally because, we want to kind of have some ability to moderate and keep the links useful rather than spam. So, or have people that are joined that aren't really engaged or interested, robots, etc. So anyway, there's the Slack link. It's in chat. So tonight's agenda, we're going to have a panel discussion. And what we did is we had a survey prior to starting this, soliciting some questions. We've gathered some things from there that we're going to talk about. We've got maybe 2 questions on that. We also have other questions that we've come up with that some of these panelists are going to answer. And what we'll do is, Tom, I'll direct you who's going to be kind of answering which one, and I'll tell you what the questions are. And then if you could just kind of handle the moderation, that would be awesome. Sure. And then partway through this session, what we're going to do is we'll open it up to Q&A. And if you could just use the chat for your questions, what I'll do is I'll feed them to Tom, and we'll figure out collaboratively who's going to answer them. And we'll give you a heads up when we're going to start doing that. But feel free to enter your questions at any time, and I'll start trying to collect them and find them. All right, Tom, do you want to go ahead next? You want to take over at this point?
Sure. So we've put together a nice group of panelists here. We have some good professionals that are going to share with us. And there you can see we have some people that have done a lot of different things, and that's by intention. So we have a good cross section. But I won't read this to you, but I will just let David start us off, just kind of go down the list here and let each one of the panelists kind of introduce themselves, because they've all have like I said, a diverse background, lots of good experience, and I think we're going to be able to answer a lot of your questions. So why don't we just start off with you, David, if you want to share a little bit about yourself and all the things that you do.
Sure. So, well, thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel. Seems like it's going to be a good evening, a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm an IT professional. My career is 30 plus years from development into management. And now I have my own company, my own consulting company, Princeton Technology Advisors. And in addition to being a tech person, I'm very active in the job seeker support community. And I'm involved with several groups in their leadership, but I lead PSG of Mercer County. You see the website right there. We're based in Princeton. We meet Friday mornings. Meetings are always free, and you're always welcome to come visit for any for any job seeker support topics.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Imtiaz, why don't you introduce yourself to the group here we have together?
Yep. Good evening, guys. So my name is Imtiaz Fazal. I am the corporate vice president at the PMO level with a insurance domain background currently. I have around 20 years of experience. I actually come from a very strong project management and program management space, moving now into the Agile area. I'm responsible for a lot of Agile transformation and coaching across the enterprise. That involves a lot of training and teaching as well in the organization.
Excellent. Joseph?
Hello, everyone. Yeah. Thank you, Princeton Agile Group, for having me here this evening. My name is Joseph Jones. I'm a product developer and coach. Some of the things that I'm passionate about are innovation, design thinking, and growth mindset, and helping people shift focus and, find their passions to move forward. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And we have Mel and Tori coming to us from Tech Systems. Why don't you, both of you guys, introduce yourselves to everyone?
Sounds great. So my name is Melanie Ossie. I am a recruiter here with Tech Systems, specializing in the Agile space, along with like program project management, business analysis, more of those functional type of roles. And so I've been with Tech Systems for over 3 years now. I am based in our Boston office, but I worked for Tech Systems in our New Jersey office for quite some time. And with a lot of things being remote, I have a lot of access to remote opportunities, as well as, opportunities locally to New Jersey. Just a tidbit about Tech Systems, if you're not familiar, we're the nation's leading IT staffing and services provider. We have over 100 offices nationwide and deploy about 80,000 IT professionals on a yearly basis. So I'm really excited to be here, to be back, and have this discussion.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we've got a great group together here, and we're going to start us off. I think we have some questions that we want to start off with. Did you post them in the chat, Ken? Or?
Yeah, I'm just going to have to read them out at this point.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we got Tori also. Hi, Tori.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Tori.
Hello, no worries. So I also work for Tech Systems with Mel. I am based in the New Jersey office. We're right in Bridgewater. I just have a slightly different role than Mel. So what my job is to go into clients, build relationships, and work directly with hiring managers to either staff their opportunities that they have, or we also sell technology services, so like deliverable or project-based work. So I don't focus specifically in the Agile world, but every client has some sort of Agile positions they're trying to fill, or a transformation project that they're trying to do. So we definitely see it at every single client we work with.
Yeah, that's a good point, that the different roles in recruiting. I know from my side, I've been involved with different recruiters, and sometimes you get kind of confused what the account executives do and what the recruiters do and what question you should take to the right person. So thank you. So to kick us off here, how do we address the fit or finding the right job in the right position? Do you want to take that first, Mel?
Sure. So can you just repeat the question again? I just want to make sure that I have it correct.
How do we address finding the right fit for the right job and the right position?
So the right fit, a lot of times I'll get on the phone with people that are looking for new opportunities, and they're looking for the best fit or the perfect fit. And so working with a recruiter and speaking with myself, I really like to understand what exactly you're looking for. So logistics are important, like rate, commute, full-time or contract, all of those different things, but as well as like your day-to-day, what you do currently, what you've done in the past, and what you want to do in the future. So having that open dialogue with a recruiter definitely makes it helpful to help you find your next opportunity. And if you're not totally sure about what you want, or you never contracted before, or you only have done full-time, that's all you're interested in, we can have that conversation as well, and I can coach you through that.
Excellent. Tori, did you have something to add?
I piggybacking off what Mel said, I kind of do the same thing on the hiring manager side. They might say, hey, I need to send me your best Scrum Master. We really try and dive deeper into, what are they doing on a day-to-day basis? What kind of cultural fit are they looking for? So really diving deep into what they really want in a candidate and what they need them to do from a high level, but as well as the day-to-day. Because a Scrum Master could mean something to one manager and it means something totally different to another person. So just diving into the details and then working with the recruiters to match kind of the perfect candidate.
Yeah, that's important to kind of go back and kind of clarify, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's all the technologies and the projects are really important, but narrowing down what they need this person to do, and more importantly, how that's going to be beneficial to the client. What is it going to increase revenue? Is it going to increase sales? What is that person, how is bringing this person on going to benefit the business? That's super important to really dig deep down with the managers.
Excellent. Excellent. How do we identify the measurable results in my job search? Can you help us with that one, David?
Yeah, sure. When you conduct a job search, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things that you need to do. It's not that it's a hard process, but just be aware there's a lot of things to do. And as being project managers, you're used to working in an environment of a lot of working parts. And so, part of your time, certainly you'll work with someone like Melanie, a recruiter, and I'm sure she'll help you through some of the measurable results. But when you work on your own, you have to see what is working for you in your job search and what is not working. So, you may want to reach out to people through phone call. You may want to reach out to people by email. You may want to send letters. See what's working the best. So you have to kind of keep track of these results. I've sent out 10 letters. I've sent out 10 emails. And where are you getting responses? That may be something you want to keep track of. Maybe you've got your resume posted on the job boards. Well, what you may try doing is have different versions of the resume on different job boards and then see which one is getting the most sort of inquiries. That may be another way of doing it. So see what is working and what is not working. The things that are not working well at all, you pretty much can stop doing them. And things that are working well, you'll want to do those a bit more. So you have to decide for yourself all the different things that you do need to keep track of. I gave you just a couple of examples, but that really understanding what works and doing those the most are what's going to help you be more efficient and effective when you conduct your own job search.
That's very agile of you, David. We should make experiments and try what works. See, can you keep doing it, right?
Well, for this audience, I think it's natural. Of course, there's some people who are not familiar with Agile, and they would have to adjust to it a bit more.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Very good. Thank you, David. So how do we start out or maybe break into this industry if we're not in this industry? Imitez, could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that's a common question so I do a lot of mentoring in the Agile community, and I've been doing it for many years. And that's one of the common questions typically the first question I get asked is this Agile for IT, right? And more importantly, I don't have a background. I am either a branch manager at a bank. I am a student who just graduated. Sometimes I get calls that the people that provide Uber services. I own a business. I'm a housemaker. I've had a 10-year break. So those are the people that I call the group one, right? So group ones are those that are on the fence. They're really not sure if this is a career path for them and how do they get into it. And then you have the other group, which I call group two, which is in the field. And these are individuals that are somewhat in the work environment, whether in an analyst role or a business analyst role, maybe a project manager role. So how does the group one break into this domain, right? How does it actually start with? My usual recommendation is, first of all, learn from the basics, right? Understand the fundamentals of Agile, whatever you choose, Scrum, Kanban, doesn't matter. Because you're in that on the fence kind of thing, you may not have that much leverage or budget, so to speak, to go and take all kind of certifications. So what do? Right? So I recommend that, first of all, start with everything that's available out there, whether it's your YouTube videos, whether it's the webinars that people do, such as these and other communities, articles on LinkedIn. There are a lot of experts in LinkedIn. They write beautiful articles. Read those, absorb those, read the study guides, read the Scrum guides, the Kanban guides, and then potentially look for some affordable training, right? Maybe whether it's Udemy or some level of training. Now that you understand the basic or understand the knowledge around it, convert that into your work experience. Now, how would you do that? Whether you're at a homemaker, think about how would you convert that knowledge into your home environment. Whether you're at the bank, at the teller, how would you involve some of those practices that you learned from the theory into practical stuff, right? Whether you're a student, how do you take agility into the educational space? So kind of build that knowledge and then create your own experience around it, because you don't have the experience. That's a fact, you don't. So build on that. Potentially even work for nonprofit organizations, knock on people's doors at the libraries, the community centers, say, hey, I want to come in and do some volunteer work, and I have these things I want to talk about, present an Agile concept to them, and bring those organizations into that, and build your resume in that aspect, right? Certainly mentor, speak at events, and connect with recruiters. Those are some of the ways that you can actually create a foundational knowledge and try to tap into the market. Now, the group two are those that are in the field. For those individuals, first of all, recommendation is, if you're a project manager, like many of us were probably many, many years ago, look for current opportunities at work. Put your word out, hey, by the way, if there's an Agile concept or delivery train or team starting up, I would like to be part of that. In that situation, I would recommend maybe get a certification if you don't have any, right? At least that will give you some knowledge and certification concepts in mind. And again, as the group B or group two in the field, continue learning, right? I cannot stress enough, the more you learn, the more knowledge you gain, the more broader perspectives you have, and then certainly keep on building your network. So those would be my two recommendations for those individuals trying to start and break into this market.
Excellent advice. Tori, did you have something else to share there?
Yeah, sure. So my advice is mostly for the group two that he's talking about, people kind of already in the IT field and trying to get more into an Agile focused area. And kind of the same thing he was saying is, at your current location, where can you insert yourself? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a new position or a new team building up. But I have hiring managers come to me all the time like, hey, I just need somebody to run this Scrum. Like, I don't need to bring on a new person. And they don't look internally for who can kind of run that Scrum meeting. So, reaching out to your network within your company and seeing, hey, is there anything I can help with? Is there anything that I can do within that area that's not necessarily a new job title or a new role, but it's just helping out in different areas. And my second piece of advice would be, when you're looking for jobs, is you don't want to find, obviously you want to find the perfect job, but you want to look at jobs as, is this going to get me to where I want to be? So maybe not taking the perfect job or being really picky, but it might get you in a client that's doing an Agile transformation, or it might get you into a project where you don't need a heavy Agile experience, but your other skills fit. So don't look at, oh, this isn't the perfect ideal job that I want. Look at it as, is this going to get me to my end goal? Especially in the contracting world in IT. All of these can be a path to your perfect and ideal job.
Yeah, and I just want to add to what Tori mentioned. I'll give you my example, right? Two scenarios. One is I was a project manager, or actually more of a program manager for an infrastructure area. And within the organization, I told my manager, look, this is something I can do with my eyes closed. It's not challenging enough. I need to move to the business side, right? And here comes along the Agile transformation 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And they asked me to become a Scrum Master. So at that point, personally, I was like, really? Do I need to move to a Scrum Master role? I'm at a program level and I was hoping to get a bigger role. But who knew from a Scrum Master initiation to the release to an engineer to the enterprise Agile coach and running leadership Agile transformation within a matter of 4 years was my career path, right? So you never say no to opportunities.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Let's shift gears here a little bit and kind of talk about how we work with recruiters. So for instance, we have Mel and we have Tori here to talk to us, but do I just give you guys my resume and you fix it up for me, or how does this work? Tell me, kind of walk me through how you guys can help me and how we would work, and maybe even tell us, because I know there's a few things that recruiters don't want you to do. So maybe kind of explain some of those too, please.
They may have a magic printer rather than a magic wand, right? You just print out and the resume comes in.
Yes, yes.
I always say I'm not the recruiter fairy. So that's a great question. And I think the best way to work with recruiters is having open communication, and it's more of a partnership. It's not me telling you you can't do that job. It's not you telling me that you don't want that job. It's not me just trying to piece together what your resume means, because you're much more than your resume. You are much more than the words that you type on the paper. And so I really like to understand, what is your story? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? And also being open to feedback. And I think the key word here is partnership. Having a collaborative discussion of, maybe some resume suggestions. Hey, let's add this to your resume. It's okay if it's over 2 pages. We'll figure that out together. But I think the main thing is the open communication and the partnership. And when I work with people, I like to set expectations and standards of, hey, if I don't reach out in a couple of weeks, it's not because I didn't like our conversation, but maybe, and this is probably something we'll talk about later, but maybe the compensation you're looking for is not something that I see as often. Or, just having that, set action plan or that type of thing. So that's what I would say. And I can always go off that if people have more questions later.
Yeah, so some good being honest and upfront with people and really kind of having that open communication, right? So Tori, do you have any other things, tips maybe we can add in there?
I mean, Mel pretty much covered a lot of the things that I would suggest. Being open and honest. I think there's a misconception that recruiters just want to place you somewhere and then never talk to you again and just make money off of you. But in the recruiting world, we really want to build these partnerships, and we want to make those, networking with candidates and consultants and everything is enjoyable, but it's also beneficial for us in many ways other than just getting to place you at a client. It might form new relationships with new clients that you might get a job not through our company. So just being honest with the recruiters and, knowing that there's a benefit in it for us as well, that working with you and, getting you to a client, whether it's through Tech Systems or another recruiting company or not, we want to just make sure that you are in the right role and happy. And we can do that by, having open and honest communication.
So to follow along with that, how do you guys vet a candidate so you know that, they're the right fit?
I can jump in here and then Tori can take it away as well. So with opportunities, Tech Systems, we are a preferred vendor across the nation, and I say that often, but the reason why people like working with us, and I feel like I kind of say this on repeat when I'm meeting with people is we provide quality candidates. So we do expect to complete professional references during the submittal process. So what that means is I find an opportunity for you and you agree that it's a good fit, everything works out, and we complete that reference to really highlight and endorse your skills. I understand that a lot of people ask for references, whether that be me, whether that be an HR company with a specific company. And those are some things that we can kind of talk about of really what's, for lack of a better term, what's in it for you. So for our vetting process, that's a lot of what we do. And I personally like to meet people. Obviously, during COVID times, we're not meeting people at coffee or going out to lunch or anything, but I'm really valuing like this type of interaction, being able to see so many people virtually and have this type of open communication. But I think it's super important for the process to be able to meet someone and really get to know them that way.
Excellent. Did you have any more to share there, Tori, and how you guys vet candidates? Or
It's kind of not vetting a candidate, but we're big on networking and like, so if I get a referral from, say, a hiring manager with a client that I work with, and they say, hey, this guy's really good, this girl's really good, you should work with them, that holds a lot of weight. So I always tell people, like, share your resume with everyone, share your resume with your network, share your resume with people you trust to kind of put it out to the people that are important. Because if I get a great resume from a hiring manager, I'm spending a lot of time trying to find that person their next role and putting a lot of time into them because they're from a trusted resource.
excellent. So what would you guys say do job managers look for, in a role or certifications, and kind of maybe if that changes over time, maybe depending on where you are in your career path? Maybe Melanie, do you want to share some answers with that?
Yes, so every client is different, so I'm just going to speak in a generalized sense. A lot of times clients are very specific. They want you to have your CSM specifically, or they want you to have your PSM. Like sometimes they're very specific to like Scrum org or Scrum Alliance. So sometimes that's very specific. A lot of times I'll see, oh, we want a Scrum Master with, 5 years of experience and we don't care about a certification. Or we want a project manager that is certified Scrum Master so they can kind of grow and help the organization become agile. But this is a project management position. So in terms of certifications, there's not one that is universal. It all depends, but a lot of organizations as well that are going through their SAFe transformation, I've seen if like you have your SPC, that's definitely a higher selling point than if you did not. So depending on the client, and that's something that I could talk one-on-one with people about, they're very specific with certifications, and then sometimes it's not as important.
MTS, did you have something on that?
Yeah, I can actually take the other side of the coin, which is from the hiring perspective, from a hiring manager perspective, what does one look for?
Mm-hmm.
For a resume that comes for my assessment, the first thing I look at, obviously, does the resume even make sense? Meaning, does the title match the work that you've done, right? A lot of times what we see is, I'm a QA person, I'm a project manager, I'm also a business analyst. Oh, by the way, I'm also a product owner. That's quite confusing. You have to be very clear and specific in what you did, whether it's 7 bullet points, but at least tell me that you actually did or were in a Scrum Master role, right? Well, I usually tell people this when I do a lot of mock interviews for the community. I tell them, listen, it's the story that you tell me. I don't know anything about you. So be very clear on the story that you're going to tell me. I'm not going to come and assess your work, but I'm going to hear you what you're telling me. So first thing I do is understand that the knowledge. Does a person even have the basic fundamental knowledge? And people sometimes struggle with that concepts. And if I find people that are struggling with just basic concepts, and you have a certification on the resume, then I know it's just a piece of paper, doesn't mean anything, right? So again, it goes back to the way you learn things. Your foundation should be really solid. So build on that foundation when you come to an interview. And then I would assess you on your experience, right? So a lot of times I ask people, now that you understand the foundation, talk to me about your experience. What does your day look like? If you're a product owner, walk me through the 24 hours. How does that entail? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? And that actually then adds the reality to the mix. Is do you actually have that experience that you say you do, right? The most common mistakes that people do is you ask them, how big was your Scrum team? Between 5 and 8. Well, is it 5 or is it 8, right? If you're telling me 5 or 8, that means you probably didn't know what your Scrum team size was. So therefore, if you're a Scrum Master, you certainly didn't know the size of the team. So if you come to me as a Scrum Master, you should be like, my team was size of 7, 2 developers, 2 testers, 1 Scrum Master, 1 product owner, and we have 2 QA people in offshore, right? Very clean answers to those questions. And then obviously, if you're somebody who's coming at the scale level, so which Melanie mentioned about SAFe, there's a set of other criteria that you have to fill, right? Have you have experience running a PI or participating in a PI. I just interviewed somebody a couple of weeks ago, and apparently he had some resume. He had some certifications, and I asked him, the first question I asked him is, how many PIs have you attended? He said 6. I was like, wow, that's impressive. Can you walk me through a day? What happens in that 2 days? And he was all over the place. So if you attended 6 PIs, you better know how the day goes. So that's basically what I would recommend from a hiring perspective when the resumes come to us. Be clear with your story, right? Have your facts, your story defined, so you communicate that clearly to the hiring people.
Yeah, very good advice. Yeah, kind of have a story ready and be ready to share it. That's so good. What are some common misconceptions people hear about, like with Agile careers and recruiting? Mel, do you want to start us off there?
Yes, I think there's a lot of layers to this. A lot of times when I speak to individuals, they feel as though, and this is definitely true, that recruitment agencies don't care. They just, want to, slam in resumes and hope for the best. They don't build the partnership. So I think that really ties into what I was saying before of there's a lot of misconception of we don't know what we're talking about. Now, I am not an Agile professional. We know that. I'm not a Scrum Master, but I've taken some courses and some learning and, coming to these meetups every month for like 2 years, which is crazy, to deeper our learning. So I know not every recruiter does that. And I know a lot of recruiters do. So I'm not just the only one, but we really do care, and we really want to learn more about people's career. And like specifically with tech systems, we're really specializing in the skill sets that we work in. We're actually going to be getting, more and more things in terms of certifications and just, really owning our career and really owning the skill set that we work in. So that's what I would say.
Tori, did you have anything to add to that?
I actually don't think I have anything to add to that one. A lot of the misconceptions that I've seen are kind of what Mel touched on, that we don't know what we're talking about, that we don't, I think a big misconception too is how much we're working with the client to try and fill these. Most of the requirements that Tech Systems at least is working with, we will only work on things where we have direct contact with the manager. And if we don't, we're completely open and honest with the candidates about our relationship with the client. But we're not just there, for lack of a better word, slinging resumes to these major clients. We really prioritize the managers that really put in the effort to kind of understand the candidates we're presenting to match them with the roles that we're looking at.
Very good advice. So kind of looking for more guidance here. What has helped you get to where you are as an Agilist? What advice would you have for others who want to get into a similar direction? So Imtiaz, do you have any suggestions for people?
Yeah, so let's assume that you are in the space in some capacity in the Agile space, and you want to kind of grow in that space, right? So whether you're a Scrum Master or product owner, whatever have you, I typically would recommend that you set some goals for yourself, right? This should be your, and you do typically at every job, you have your 6 months quarterly goals, right? So if you knew you were a Scrum Master, assess yourself where you stand today, right? Can you successfully tell your manager that you've actually, one team has been successful, right? So when I was a Scrum Master, the qualities and the practices that as a change agent that you bring to that team is valuable, right? One of the recent talks I did on servant leadership for the Agile DMV session was, typically we ask leaders to do a lot of responsibility, but it really comes down to the team level, right? Foundation starts at the team. So as a Scrum Master, if you want to grow in that path, you ask yourself, have I made a team successful? Have I enabled the team where they actually don't need me on a day-to-day basis? So one of the practices I've used was, and I used to love this because I used to go to the Scrum team, enable them, then go to my manager, says, you know what, they don't need me. I'm almost eliminating my own job. And that's the risk you have to take. And then the manager says, okay, that's great to know. Why don't you move to this other team and 2 other teams because they really need your help? So you go there, do the same thing, then go to the train level. Says, I My train's enabled. They're very successful. They're delivering on metrics, delivery. They don't need me. What else can I do? All right, so maybe you want to move to the enterprise level job title, right? So again, do that for yourself. Set your own career goals and your expectations, and then meet those targets, because otherwise you'll probably be in one role for many, many years and without opportunities to grow, right? Same thing with coaching. If you're an agile coach, if you're at the team level, move up to multiple teams. Take that ownership for multiple teams. If you're at the multiple team levels, maybe move to the leadership. And then if you're in that position, whenever there's an opportunity to grow, you should be the first person to raise your hand. So I'll give you a couple more examples. We had a tech fair in the organization. I took the opportunity to present, diverse thinking and design thinking, right? So it introduced the concept to 400 people in technology. I brought in concepts of design thinking into how we do performance reviews for leadership. So that was a new concept for them. And so therefore, again, look for these opportunities to put yourself out there in the company so you're recognized for the work, and then therefore will help you grow in that path.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone else have anything to share on that one?
Yeah, this is David. I have an observation as well. The second half of my corporate career, I was a hiring manager. I had teams working for me. And there was always two things that I was interested in. When I read a resume, I basically understood that this candidate or these candidates can do the job. But what I wanted to know was, can I work with this person for 8 hours a day? And so that was usually questions that I wanted to be able to understand when I would be asking. So it becomes important then for you as a candidate to understand about the hiring manager. And sometimes that's a little hard to do, but if your recruiter can help you, if your own network can help you learn about the hiring manager, you may be able to make sure that you can answer that type of a question. Are you going to be the type of person that can work with that person? Will they be happy with you because you're learning a little bit about them? Yeah, so that becomes something that becomes very important. The other thing that I wanted to know was, can this person make my job as the manager easier? And so it becomes important for you as somebody who is researching a position to really make sure you understand what the company does and what the role entails. And again, your recruiter can help you, but recruiters don't represent for all positions. So you may want, again, looking at LinkedIn, get some information from people that are working there. Look at the company's website, see what they talk about that are things that are important for them. And so you want to be able to really address the needs of the hiring manager and the company in the short time that you have speaking with them during your interview.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. I think that little bit of, education and investigation to kind of understand what the company is could kind of set yourself apart sometimes when you're talking to a hiring manager, right?
Yeah, it really can be a differentiator, sitting across the desk from someone and that candidate really gets it for you in that position. And that's true for, whether you're established in Agile or you're looking to transition into Agile or any position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that connection, just so important, isn't it? So we have another good question here. What can we do to support underrepresented people in Agile and recruiting? Did you want to take that, Tori?
Yeah, so this isn't specifically in the Agile environment, but more in the IT industry in general. It's something that Tech Systems is super passionate about. And one of the reasons I enjoy working at Tech Systems as a company, we have a few different ways we try and partner with our clients and get more people involved. We've found that to get a more diverse group of people in the talent pool, we want to start from the very beginning. So we've partnered with Perscalis that we started in like 3 cities. Basically what it is bringing free tuition or free training and tuition-free programs that teach different IT skill sets in communities that, they don't have access to it or the opportunity for it, but also partnering with the clients. Hey, we have this many people going through this program, and we have agreements from those clients to hire a certain amount of those people full-time after, they complete some of these tuition programs and training programs and everything. So we've grown to about 14 cities in the past, I think, 6 to 12 months. And it's just a really cool thing that we try and do to bring training and teachings to these underrepresented communities. Meanwhile, partnering with the clients to link them up with actual job opportunities after all the training is done. And one additional thing that Tech Systems encourages all of their salespeople to do is we have our own employee resource groups. So we have women at Tech, we have multicultural at Tech, and we try and partner our employee resource groups with the client's employee resource groups. There's any major client has an inclusion and diversity organization. It's just how are we utilizing, how can we sell IT services to them or utilizing with them in the groups at the client. So we really try and teach our salespeople to include it in their talk track, talk about it with clients. How can we match with their inclusion and diversity standards and initiatives, and how we can bring a different perspective to that. So we try and, again, teach people from the beginning and get more people within the skill set, but also partnering with clients to be able to find more inclusive and diverse candidates that bring a good perspective to any role.
Excellent, excellent. Does anyone else have something to share on that?
Yeah, I can just add very briefly. Our organization, we partner with, so if you're there's a program called Europe. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a very great program. Those are mostly for students who are underrepresented in the area. So we bring those students into the career field and eventually hire them and provide them full-time opportunities. So that's one avenue. But if you're in the career, there's obviously other groups like Women in Agile, which is a very powerful group. Actually, it's expanded significantly in the last 3-4 years. Yeah. There's also one called Agile in Colors. Ken had mentioned these. They provide actually career development. And then the last thing I would probably tell you is if you connect with, build your network of people. Right? There might be a lot of leaders in that space that may not be able to hire you specifically, but at least they'll open up avenues for you where they may tag you to other partners and like leaders that they may be aware of. So that's another way to actually, help represent some of these support groups.
Yeah, that
I'm just
network
going to
is
throw
so
in here
important.
as well, real quick, is there are Women in Agile chapters in both Philadelphia and New York, Agile in Color, I know recently started up in January. They're actually very closely associated with Agile Alliance. I encourage you folks to reach out and engage with both of those organizations. There's a lot that we can do to help support diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I encourage you to reach out to those.
Yeah. There are also specific meetups. If you look at meetup groups, you might actually find a few, but you'll still find some of them that could probably enable you as well.
Good advice. Good advice. Looking back now, we've talked a little bit about certifications, but what are some good certifications that we should consider? Imtiaz, do you have any suggestions for us?
Oh boy, yeah. This is so the one thing obviously I would say is, one size doesn't fit all, right? There's at least 20 unique brands out there with over 200 certifications. It really comes down to what your current role is, and what your future goals are, right? Where are you currently in your career in that track, and where do you actually want to get to? And it all depends on your individuality, really, to be honest. So a lot of times people come to me, and I do teach some courses from Scaled Agile and others, but people come to me and say, I want to take a class. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, first of all, you need to understand where you are in your career, in your certification track, whether you have something, whether you don't have something, and then where do you actually eventually want to go? Sometimes I tell people this, don't overburden yourself. Sometimes you end up taking 7, 8, 9, 10 certifications. It's probably a little too much. So the first question you have to ask is, if I don't have anything, what is the 1 or 2 certification investment that I need to do? And again, it depends, right? It depends on your budget. It depends on your career. It depends on your goal. The most 3 famous, like most of us know, are the Scrum Alliances, the Scrum.org, and the Scaled Agile, right? Those are the leaders in that space. And then there's some one-offs like Scrum Study and Certiproof and so on and so forth. So that's your foundational, right? Then you want to explore further into certifications. You take other frameworks such as Scrum at Scale, LESS, so on and so forth. If you want to divert into Kanban, you have the Kanban University. Typically, people would start as the Kanban practitioner there. So these are well-known brands out there. There's also now DevOps is big, so DOI is a good brand to explore. And then if you want to be specific in the marketing and the HR, there are other practices out there that actually certify you in those specific areas. So from a certification perspective, I would first say that understand where you are and where you want to go. Do your homework, ask people on LinkedIn, other networks that you have. It does make a difference what certification you take, and more importantly, it makes a difference who you take the certification from. Like I mentioned, my resume experience. If you have a certification, but you didn't learn anything from that 2-day session, then it means nothing to me, right? So, and there are some very well-respected trainers out there. So do your homework is what I would recommend.
Joseph, do you have something to share on that?
Yeah, I would just agree, make sure that you're going after the right thing, something that will apply for advancement. There's a lot out there to go for, so definitely do your homework.
What are some things, Joseph, I guess when we look at different options that is there certain criteria we should consider?
I would just say keep an open mind, have a growth mindset, be curious, similar to what Mel has mentioned and Tori is, learn more about where you're trying to go and, study on that.
Did you have something to share, David?
Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Imtiaz had said, figuring out what it is. To get a little bit more specific, one thing I would suggest is get on LinkedIn and start doing searches for your role. Don't search for you, don't search for specific people, but if you're a Scrum Master or whatever it is you are, start doing that, and then open up those people's profiles and see, when these are people similar to your role, what type of certifications, if any, these people have. And that will begin to tell you what other employed people are actively doing. And then also, you make your list, your target list of companies, the type of companies or the specific companies that you're interested in working for. You may begin to understand the companies and then understand what it is that they do. And so now you'll be able to more specifically be able to target the certifications that may be current right now and in the targeted space you'll want to work.
Good advice. Good advice. How do we develop our personal or professional agility? Joseph, can you enlighten us?
Yes, just having continue to have a growth mindset. Agility means being flexible. So that also means, you need to be able to accept change and adapt to change. And so that means you may have to learn something that pick up a new skill and learn something you didn't have before in order to get that job that, you're going after. If the recruiters are looking for a particular skill set and you don't have that, but that's the trajectory you're trying to go in, then you need to, apply that, pick it up and learn it if that's where you're trying to go.
So if you talk to somebody, Joseph, how can you tell if they have a growth mindset? What are some things you pick up on?
Yeah, if they're someone that's able to embrace change, if you're able to embrace change, that means you're adaptable. You're able to move with the currents and change with the situation. That means you're open to learning new things. You're not fixed mindset means you're not being curious. Curiosity is a growth mindset because it means you want to learn more to advance.
Excellent. How do I build my network and how do I use my internal referrals? David?
Sure. Building up a professional network and benefiting and using a professional network really is going to expedite and make you more effective in a job search. Certainly you can work with recruiters. You can even just look online for positions. But statistically, and Forbes reported, about 70% of, Forbes reported this in 2016, about 70% of open positions are not posted. And so that means if you're working only in the more traditional space, you're missing out on a lot of the jobs. So what you want to be able to do is begin to target those companies, identify the companies that become important to you, and then from there begin to target people within the companies. University of Michigan did a study just a couple of years ago that your odds of getting a job through a job site application or an applicant tracking system and some people call them applicant trashing systems, but your odds are 1 in 250 statistically. That's not just Agile jobs, that was across the base. That's a 0.04% success rate. So, I mean, I would never go to Atlantic City and play a table that had a 0.04% success rate. But what the same study found is employee referrals make up 7% of applicants. And you may say, well, then that shows I don't want to be there. But it's not, because it also showed it reflected 40% of the hires. 40% of the hires from companies came from internal referrals. So your goal should be to begin to meet people who work at the companies in the roles of interest. It doesn't have to be just the hiring managers. You can meet an HR person. You can meet somebody in the company of interest, but in a different position because they may know other people. And so it's really going to be able to highlight to other people that you may be someone of interest because they're getting to know you a little bit. And then earlier there was a question on underserved communities, and there are a lot of biases in the marketplace, and we're not really here to discuss that in great detail. But one way to overcome bias is if someone knows you and likes you, they're not going to care, what your, kind of what your bias group you may fall into. And it doesn't have to be, race and religion. It could just be that you're over 50 years old. There's lots of biases in the marketplace. So building up your network, getting to know people in the target companies that you're interested in really will increase your ability to land quickly.
Interesting. Very good. Anyone else have any tidbits to share on that topic?
I can jump in here to piggyback off of David a little bit. When you're networking and making those connections at the company, because I 100% agree, target companies, look who you can meet there. And then when you are networking, one, don't be afraid to ask for favors. And when you do, be specific with what you are asking for. So if you see a friend of yours has a connection to a manager at a company you want to work for, don't say, hey, can you reach out to anyone you know at XYZ company and see if there's any job openings? Say, hey, I see John Smith over at XYZ company. Would you mind making an introduction to him? So being really, because if it's too general, people are going to be like, all right, yeah, sure. And maybe mention it in passing, maybe put your resume in front of somebody. But if you're really specific in what you're asking them to do, they're more likely to do it. And so if they're more likely to do it, you're more likely to get a result from it. So that would be my 2 pieces of advice. Don't be afraid to ask for favors, and be specific with them when you are asking for them.
And there's one other perk, which is a lot of companies do offer their employees finder's fees for bringing in candidates. And so you can even, you're not going to split it with them. Don't try and cheat them out of that, but take advantage of what that company is willing to offer somebody to help you. Yeah, so I agree, Tori, you're spot on.
Very good, very good. So we've talked about this a little bit, but let's kind of break it down with contracting versus full-time employment. That's, sometimes a lot of people want to think about. David, do you want to start us off there?
Sure. A lot of time now, especially in tech areas, technology, my observation, is more and more becoming a commoditized type of a service. It used to be that every company ran big projects and had big data centers and big teams of people. But now the companies are being a bit more lean in their budgets, and they're bringing in people when they have a project, and when the project's over, they may let go some of the people. And if you want to be on that larger team, you may need to be open to temporary employment or contracting separate from or in addition to that full-time job. So, be open to contracting. Another advantage contracting gives you an advantage of is some of the biases go away with contractors that may be in place with a full-time position. Some hiring managers may say, I just don't think I can work with this person forever. But when you come in with a very specific skill to help that hiring manager solve a very specific problem on a project, biases tend to be overlooked. And so you can overcome a lot of those, whether it's bias related to the more traditional ones or even your age. And a lot of times hiring managers like to contract older employees or older staff. And the reason why they're cool under pressure, they have years of experience, but they're not perceived as expensive or other things that they may be as an employee. Sometimes there's a bias there as well. So be open to contracting. It does mean a little bit more work for you because you may need to look for a new job after the contract is over. But I think there are a lot of people that when they look for that next job, look only for full-time. And I think there are a lot of opportunities out there when you're a contractor, whether you're working through a company or you're working on your own.
Who else wants to?
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
the agile coaching role specifically is a lot of contracting, right? No company may hire you for 6 years being an agile coach. It's more like, here's the problem statement, come in, coach us, and then enable us. So certainly, and there's a lot of jobs. If you look at LinkedIn, agile coaching jobs are probably one of the highest numbers that I find.
Mel, Tori, do you guys want to weigh in on that? I think you guys probably talk about that a lot, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the, roles that we see are contracting roles. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is the job security that contracting versus full-time has. I've seen a lot of instances where, especially with everything going on last year, it was the full-time employees that were let go with budget issues and things like that, because the contractors are, billed for the hours that they work, and they're doing a little bit of everything. They don't have the benefits, the pensions and all of this stuff attached to it. And kind of, we've seen people get fired within a month of getting a full-time job because the company lost budget. We've seen the same thing happen with contractors, but we've also seen contractors who are at certain clients for like 4 years. So I think it's really just about understanding how contracting will work with your specific vendor, with that specific client, and really understanding what you need out of the role compensation wise. So if you need an extra, typically we don't just take a full-time salary and divide it by how many hours and that's your contracting rate. We add extra money in for paying for your own benefits or commuting, so we work with people to figure out, what's a good contracting rate. And I think just making sure you understand fully your, financial compensation, benefits, all of that stuff, and then really understanding how the company interacts and works with contractors is really important. But I think there is a misconception that contracting, there's no job security, there's, you could be let go at any time. And that's true, but I mean, it's true of a lot of full-time roles as well. So there's definitely benefits and pros and cons to each. But I think, we were talking earlier about not finding the perfect role, but finding the role that's going to get you to the perfect role. Or a lot of the times these contracting roles are exactly that. They're looking for somebody to run their scrum meetings, but also manage this project, but also possibly talk to the BAs. It sounds all over the place, but if they're willing to look at you and contract you for 6 months, you might be able to work your way into another position that is more ideal for what you're looking for.
Joseph, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and that also goes back to that agility. If you know that you're in a contracting position, then you need to be preparing yourself for whatever may come up. If there's a new skill that you need to learn, you need to prepare yourself to get ready for that, because you just don't know. And be open to change. Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to jump in there too. Something that I'm super passionate about is, again, talking about the caring, talking about the partnership. And a lot of, especially what tech systems does, is once we place you, you're not, the connection or the conversations don't end. We are in continuous conversations. We're providing managerial feedback, and we will help you find your next position. So I can offer that stability. Once your time with the client ends, your time with tech systems ends, but I can offer that stability of, we have things set in place to make sure that we're staying in communications with the people that we put to work, and we are helping you find your next opportunity. So I think that it's also important, to Tori's point, of knowing what you're getting from the contracting or recruiting side of things as well as the client. But of course, it's just to throw in some tech systems knowledge. That is something that we really value here.
Excellent. Well, I just want to point out we have a few minutes left. We're going to have Ken moderate some questions. We do already have one in here. So please feel free to jump in the chat, share a question, and Ken will feed those in here. So our first question, though, is what kind of advice can you give a traditional project manager with a CSM training and wanting to get into an Agile or Scrum Master opportunity?
I can take that one initially. So if you're a project manager and you have a CSM, that's a great start because you have some knowledge of the Agile space now. Where do you go from there, right? The question is, are you in the role? If you're currently in the role, then there's a lot of career paths to do, right? You can scale yourself, you can explore yourself. So that's the one thing. So typically when people come to me and they say, I've done a CSM, what do I do next? I would tell them one or two options. I would either tell them if you're in the CSM path and the Scrum Alliance path and you really want to excel in the CSP path, then do the ACSM, assuming you have a role in Scrum Master or at least or trying to get one. The other option, sometimes people says, beyond that, what do I do? So obviously SAFe is a scaling Agile framework, right? So a lot of times I tell people that if you've done a CSM and you understand the foundational team and you want to expand on the knowledge about how would you fit into an enterprise environment, and a lot of big companies are adapting one of these frameworks, then you may want to jump to the advanced SAFe certification rather, right? So instead of going with the foundation one, go one up. So this way you understand and increase your knowledge, broaden your knowledge in that perspective. So those are the two options I would recommend for the individual.
Who else wants to chime in on that one?
I think it all depends on the situation. No candidate is the same. All candidates are different. A lot of times what I suggested, it depends on our client. If our client is flexible with someone that has a project management background that knows the Agile principles and wants to get into that, that is certainly something that we can talk about. A lot of times with contract, though, is they do expect people to come and, hit the ground running because you're there for a certain project, you're there for a certain amount of time. However, I've seen a lot of success talking to people and they're wanting project management and they want to get into more of that Agile focused role. We placing someone in an organization that's going through their Agile transformation and making sure that that person knows what they're getting into and that they can be flexible. So for example, me telling, hey, Tori, you are not going to be a Scrum Master right away. This is more of a project management job, but the organizational structure and where they want to go is more Agile. So that's why this opportunity would be beneficial to you. Then once you're in the door, you can make it known, or even on the interview, that's even better, of, hey, I really do value Agile and I would love to, express the knowledge that I've learned or the experience that I've learned. So I've always found that to be a good conversation.
Who else has anything to share on that? All right, we have another question here. So we have someone who's a release train engineer, but wants to transition to an enterprise level coach. What would you suggest for a career path?
I'll take that one. I know, Pooja, you pinged me separately, so I would recommend that she ask the question so everybody's benefits from it. So if you are an RTE, which is the release train engineer in a scaled Agile framework, and if you want to move to an enterprise Agile position, the first thing I would look for or recommend is, are you actually a great coach in your RTE role, right? So as a Scrum Master, you're the coach at the team level. As an RTE, you're a coach for the entire train. So are you enabling the train successfully? Do you stand out as an RTE from the crowd, right? So when I was the RTE, and even as a Scrum Master, when the PI event was run, I was the first person that was asked to present the final plan at the readout. And then everybody followed after me just to set good baseline. So the same thing goes with the RT, right? Are you one of those RTs that stands out from the crowd? Have you enabled or introduced some significant changes in your RT role to the organization so the organization can benefit? For example, metrics, right? A lot of people kind of swing their RT role and they're great at it, sometimes not so good at it. How do you facilitate your PI events? How do you actually deliver value at an organizational level? And those things will actually make you stand out. That would enable you to become the enterprise level coach. The other thing I would also recommend is, like we talk about skill sets, right? The I's, the T's and E's, and now the pies and the double pies. As an Agile coach, you have to expand. The breadth of knowledge should be there, right? You cannot be just vertical onto one area. You have to expand on the breadth of knowledge. So you should be able to understand different frameworks, different practices, different methodologies, whether it's DevOps, whether it's Scrum at Scale, whether it's SAFe, whether it's Kanban. That will provide you the platform to actually go at the enterprise level. Okay, and by the way, just so you know, enterprise Agile coach is great. So if you're an RT, that is logically sometimes a good path. But once you're at that position for 2 years or so, you have to think next, because at some point, the enterprise Agile coach roles will probably disappear too, right? So what is next for you is what you have to start thinking on.
Interesting. Anyone else have anything to share on that? Any suggestions?
Pooja, did that help if you're still on the call? Did I answer your question? Okay.
All right. Now let's shift gears here a little bit. We've talked about this, we've touched on it a little bit, but we go in to meet someone from maybe a company we want to work at. Do we just ask them for a job right away, or what do we do maybe just to build a relationship first? Joseph, or maybe David, do you have some suggestions on that?
Look, yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
I would say do your homework, and know your value, and know what you're asking for. So go in with a purpose, so that the outcome is what you're looking for. So have a plan when you start networking.
Anything to add to that, David? Or
Yeah, I agree with Joseph. So your first question, you're wondering, do we go in asking for a job? No, absolutely not. Don't even think about it. That's a good way to end the conversation. It's even a good way to end a relationship that you've just started. But with going in with your purpose, generally with networking, there's two things you want to get to know. You want to get to know the company. You want to get to know the industry. And if you know the industry, then of course you just want to focus on the company. And so you want to understand a little bit about the way either that role or that company works, the role that you have, how that works within the company. So when you reach out and you introduce yourself and you meet someone, you don't want to give out your whole elevator pitch for 30 seconds or a minute. You just want to say, hello, my name is David and I'm a project manager. I'm really interested in how you guys do project management in the organization. You want to learn about them. The person on the other side, if they're not a hiring manager, they're keeping their eyes open for the hiring manager, and they're going to see you're inquisitive and you want to learn about the company. And so I would start with that. And that's how you would start the relationship. But that's only planting the seed. And like any good planting or cultivating you may do, you need to build that relationship. And again, don't reach out and say, hey, how's the job market in your company? Things you're going to want to do is, hey, you may have heard about a good conference that may be of interest. Send an email along. I read about this conference. You may be interested. Begin to help those people. Offer them something. Let them know you're thinking about them. You read a good article. You read a good book. And or even I have a question. I heard the industry, the company posted on the website. What's your take on it? And so you really want to be involved with them, but for your benefit of learning. When that one position does specifically become available, you now have a great contact in the company to talk about that specific position that they are posting. So you're not asking, hey, are there any jobs for me? Later, you can talk about that one position, and the person already knows you pretty well and will be interested in talking to you about it as well.
excellent advice. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in here really quick. I actually love this question because, like, making friends is hard as an adult, I've learned. You know, you're not in situations where you're around people. You have to put effort into, you know, syncing up with these people. But the first point would be, don't just network when you need a job or when you need something. Make networking a constant thing that you're doing every day, every week, every month, because it's, you know, when you can reach out to those people, you might not need a job now, but maybe in 6 months you do. And the networking you're doing now is going to work in your benefit then. The other part is just find a commonality, whether it be work, personal life, maybe you both like dogs, maybe like just anything that you have in common, and focus on that. I love dogs, so always got to throw it in there somewhere. And then the last piece is, don't forget you have value to add as well, and everyone's networking for a purpose. So really listen to, maybe that you can help them in some way. Maybe you can introduce them to someone you know. Maybe you can teach them about a piece of industry or something like that, a skill set that you have that maybe they're want to learn about. So really listen and figure out, how can I provide value to them, so that when I ask for a favor, I've already helped them in some way, and now it's reciprocal.
Excellent. Excellent advice. Well, I just want to take it. I know we just have a few minutes left, and I know Ken has a few other things, but I just want to take, a second here just to thank David, Imtiaz, Joseph, Mel, and Tori. You guys have done a great job answering a lot of great questions. We so appreciate your time and willingness to share. Thank you so much. All right. With that,
Yeah. So do we have any? Do we have anything? Anything that any of the panelists want to add before we wrap up? We'll just do a round robin real quickly. You don't have to go into that, Tom. We'll skip those slides for now.
Yep.
Yeah. David, did you want to add anything before we wrap up, or any other thoughts? Final thoughts?
I thought this was a great discussion, a lot of different topics, very specific about career path as well as searching for a job. I thought this was done very well. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel.
Okay. Imtiaz, did you want to add anything before we wrap up?
No, likewise. Again, great team. I've been part of this particular meetup for 2 years or more, since I don't remember when we were in the library, as I always call myself, to now with the virtual world we're in, which has just expanded, and great to see so many new faces come up. So thank you for the opportunity again. Tom, thank you for great facilitation, and my co-partners in discussion. Thank you for being here. So, and Ken,
Joseph,
last but least, Ken, of course.
Joseph, anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, just want to say thank you for having me. And I hope that those in the audience listening learned something new that was helpful, a takeaway or aha moment. And I challenge you to take action, action steps to advance your career, find what you're looking for.
Yeah. Melanie, how about you?
It's definitely good to be back on this meetup and see familiar faces as well as new faces. I'm extremely thankful for this opportunity. And I like what you said, Joseph, of, challenging you to really take that step and really own what we've learned. And just, although I'm not on the job market, I'm going to take some of these things that we've talked about as well, and kind of use that in my personal life. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Tori, how about you?
Yeah, just thank you to all the organizers for putting this together. I love networking and talking to people. So, if you find me on LinkedIn, have any unanswered questions, or just want to connect and network, feel free to add me, reach out. Yeah, that's all. Thank you all.
Yeah, awesome. And I definitely want to thank Tom Hendrickson for jumping into the moderator position. Along with all of our organizers, Natalie, we got Chris on, we have Marla as well. I'm drawing blanks. I'm sorry, guys. What's that, Andrea?
Andrew. Yep.
Yep. So I really appreciate, the work that we've done behind the scenes to make this work. I appreciate certainly the panelists and the way that they helped engage and organize this prior to us actually doing. And I'd like to thank all the participants as well. We really appreciate you folks attending and engaging with us. I did put a whole bunch of things into the chat, links and things that, again, could be handy for you, including our Slack channel. Our Slack channel does have a channel associated with jobs and job seekers. So I do recommend you join in there. There's frequent posting regarding things like Scrum Master roles and other things, people that are looking for positions. So again, feel free to join our Slack and do that. And I guess we can wrap it up there. Thank you so much for everyone. And I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, guys.